Today we're doing front brakes on this 2011 550 GT BMW. So the first thing we're going to do is we need to drain fluid out of the master cylinder. So we need to gain access to it. It's behind this cover on the driver's side. You're going to remove that cover. It's held on there by some plastic clips. And then you're going to remove the master cylinder cap, and has a sensor on there, so you don't have to unplug that. And what you want to do here is remove some brake fluid so we can have room for when we depress the front calipers so that the fluid has a place to go. Once you've drained out enough fluid, go ahead and you could just set the cap on top of there lightly. Now on the brake, you're going to see this metal cover. It just pries off, like mine went flying somewhere. You're going to keep that because you're going to reuse that. And then what you want to do here is, first thing, we need to remove these plastic caps so we can gain access to the caliper bolts. Get a 9mm Allen, and you're going to unbolt 2 bolts on the inside of the caliper here, and just unscrew them all the way so that you can remove the caliper. Once you have your bolts backed out all the way, go ahead and start unclipping the harness so you get it ready to remove. And follow the wire, and you'll see it goes through this plastic panel. Open that up, and you'll see where the wire is. There's a connector in there. So what you want to do is just pull the connector out of that holder and just unplug it by depressing a plastic tab on the connector. On the caliper here, get yourself a nice size screwdriver to help you kind of depress the piston back in so you can get the caliper around the anchor, because it's in there pretty tight. And also you want to get yourself a hanger so you can hang the caliper, because it's kind of heavy, so I don't like it resting on the brake hose. So it's a good idea just to hang it somewhere, and then you can go ahead and remove your brake pads and the sensor harness. Now you need to remove the caliper anchor. It's held on there by 2 18mm bolts. So get yourself a good size socket and ratchet and pull those bolts out. Remove the 6mm Allen head bolt here for the rotor. And then some of these rotors can be stuck, so you're going to need a hammer to break it free. And sometimes they actually just come right off. You never know. It all depends on where the car comes from. If it's it's an East Coast car, you know it's rusted on there. Reinstall your new rotor, and then go ahead and put that little bolt that goes in there. And you're going to torque that down to, I think, what is it, 11 foot-pounds? Reinstall the caliper anchor that's held on it with the two 18mm bolts that you had previously removed. Just line it up and start it by hand, and then go ahead and torque it down a spec. And the torque spec for these bolts is 81 foot-pounds. Now get yourself some channel locks or any other tool that you can use, C-clamps, whatever, and depress the piston back into the caliper. And also make sure that you check the boot, make sure it's not torn or anything. If you see a lot of damage to the boot, it might be a good time to replace the caliper at this point. You can buy those as well. This one looked in good shape, so all I had to do is push it back. Most of the time, you shouldn't have any trouble here. Now it's time to install the pads. Grab your inboard brake pad and put it onto the piston on the caliper. And it's got these tabs, so you have to press that on there. And the outboard pad just sits right on the anchor. Nice and easy. Now install your caliper, and it should go on there really easy. On those caliper bolts, slide them back a little bit so it helps you align it and get it into its proper location. Once you snug them up, go ahead and torque them to 40 foot-pounds. Get your new harness and start to install it. You're going to see the harness has these rubber grommets, and they're going to go in spots along the way. You'll see the way it's routed, and it's pretty much just follow the way that it was on there, and make sure that you route it in a way where it's not going to interfere in any way with the wheel. That's the big concern here. So as long as you put everything back where it belongs, you shouldn't have any problems. When you get to the part that plugs or connects to the disc pad on the inside, you're going to see that one end of the sensor has like a little tab. Make sure that tab is pointing towards the rotor, and the flat side of it is going to go towards the caliper piston. Now just reinstall that metal spring plate that we had in the very beginning. This can be a little tricky. In this video here, it doesn't show me actually doing the complete fight with it, but I actually struggled with it a little bit because those tabs on the ends there, you got to make sure that they stay on the outside. You'll see what I mean when you mess with it. This is what I was talking about earlier. This is the positioning of the sensor. And make sure, like I said, that it's not binding in any way or tangled anywhere. This is the way it was. And do the same on the other side. The other side will not have a sensor, so it's much easier. So go ahead and put your wheels on and torque them down to spec. And you're pretty much done with the brakes at this point. Make sure you don't forget your little plastic caps for the caliper bolts. That's where those go. Now all you have left is to top off your master cylinder. This vehicle here took .4 brake fluid. Make sure you check yours and see that it uses whatever brake fluid is required for it. And then remember, before you test drive this vehicle, pump the brakes a few times just to make up any clearance in the calipers. And also try and follow the manufacturer's procedure for proper braking on the brake pads, depending on where you got them from. There should be instructions for that. And that should conclude this video. If you have any questions, just place a comment and ask your question, and I'll try and respond as quickly as possible. And I'll see everyone later. Take care.